To truly understand Barcelona, one must look not just at its celebrated monuments, but at the very blueprint of its streets. From above, the Eixample district reveals itself as a near-perfect grid, a vision of utopian order conceived in 1859 by the urban planner Ildefons Cerdà. He designed these iconic octagonal blocks not merely for aesthetics, but as a revolutionary social project. The chamfered corners improved visibility and airflow, while the planned interior courtyards were meant to provide green space for all. This rigid, rational geometry forms a vast stage upon which the city's most famous son, Antoni Gaudí, would later unleash his rebellion of organic form. His work, from the undulating facade of Casa Milà to the forest of columns within the Sagrada Familia, seems to grow from the earth itself, a defiant contrast to the calculated lines that surround it. The result is a city engaged in a constant, beautiful conversation between human logic and the untamable spirit of nature, a dialogue written in stone and steel across the avenues of the 19th century. Kraków exists as a rare European testament to continuity, a city that holds the unbroken thread of a nation's story. For over 500 years, this was the royal capital, a crucible of power, art, and intellect, and its survival is key to its profound atmosphere. Unlike so many of its counterparts, its core was largely spared the systematic destruction of the Second World War, meaning the history here is not a reconstruction, but an authentic original. This is why a walk through its streets feels less like a visit and more like a pilgrimage. The city's heart, the Rynek Główny, has been the center of public life for nearly 8 centuries, its vast expanse a stage for commerce, ceremony, and revolution. From the Wawel Hill, where kings were crowned and laid to rest, the royal road unspools through the old town, each building and cobblestone a chapter in that long narrative. To wander Kraków is to understand that history here is not a collection of artifacts behind glass. It is the very bedrock, a living presence that breathes through the courtyards and whispers from the Gothic spires. Born of a volcanic plume deep beneath the Atlantic, Madeira is an island of dramatic contradictions, a testament to both geological force and human tenacity. When Portuguese navigators first landed in 1419, they found not a paradise, but a fortress of impenetrable, primeval laurel forest, so dense they named the island for its wood. To tame it, they set fires that are said to have burned for 7 years, clearing the way for settlement. Yet the true challenge remained: its topography. The solution was an engineering marvel born of necessity: the levadas. This intricate network of aqueducts, stretching over 2,000 kilometers, was painstakingly carved into the mountainsides over centuries, designed to channel precious water from the damp, misty north to the sun-drenched agricultural terraces of the south. They are the island's circulatory system, a quiet testament to a people who did not simply settle on the land, but entered into a profound and demanding partnership with it. It is a landscape not merely discovered, but deliberately and painstakingly sculpted. The idyllic maze of waterways that defines Giethorn wasn't born from a romantic vision, but from centuries of arduous labor. Its story begins around the 12th century, rooted not in leisure, but in the relentless excavation of peat, the brown gold that fueled the Low Countries for generations. The canals are the direct legacy of this industry. They are the trenches dug by peat cutters who left narrow strips of land between them to dry their harvest. Upon these fragile islands, they built their thatched roof farmhouses, connected only by water and the more than 180 wooden bridges required for their punts to pass beneath. Even the larger lakes are a stark reminder of the risks, formed when storms flooded vast, overworked peat fields. What remains is an accidental masterpiece, a landscape where the scars of industry have softened into lines of serene beauty. A quiet testament to how human necessity can inadvertently sculpt an enduring paradise. Innsbruck, the bridge over the Inn, is a city defined not by a single border, but by its profound connection between two worlds. For centuries, this valley was the critical artery connecting the Germanic north with the Italian south via the Brenner Pass, one of the lowest and most forgiving crossings in the entire Alpine range. It was this strategic value that convinced Emperor Maximilian I to establish his imperial capital here in the late 15th century, transforming a vital trading post into the heart of the Holy Roman Empire. The city's golden-roofed grandeur, however, exists in a constant, dramatic dialogue with the raw power of its landscape. The sheer limestone face of the Nordkette Range rises over 2,000 meters directly from the city's edge, a formidable wall that both protects and confines. This geography also births a unique meteorological phenomenon, the föhn, a warm, dry wind that can sweep down from the mountains, raising temperatures by as much as 15 degrees Celsius in a matter of hours and altering the very mood of the city. Here, one feels the tension and the harmony between human ambition and geological destiny. A place where alpine ruggedness and imperial history are not merely adjacent, but are forged into a single, indivisible identity. Perugia does not simply sit upon its hill. It commands it, an acropolis of stone and story that has dominated the Umbrian landscape for millennia. But to truly understand its character, one must look beneath the surface, literally. In the mid-16th century, in a definitive act of papal authority, Pope Paul III constructed the immense Rocca Paolina, a fortress built not just over, but through an entire medieval district. The homes and streets of the powerful Baglioni family were not razed, but entombed, their structures becoming the foundations for the new citadel. Today, this buried quarter forms one of the most surreal public spaces in Italy. A series of escalators now glides through these ghostly medieval laneways, carrying residents and visitors alike from the lower town into the light. It is a journey that reveals Perugia's soul, a city built not just on rock, but on its own defiant history, where the path to the present is paved with the silent stones of its past. To truly understand Hamburg, one must look beyond the vastness of its modern port and into the intricate network of water that forms its very soul. With over 2,500 bridges, more than Venice, Amsterdam and London combined, the city isn't merely situated on the water, it is woven from it. This sprawling web of canals, or fleter, was the original lifeblood of the Hanseatic League powerhouse, a liquid infrastructure for a city built on trade. The Speicherstadt, the world's largest warehouse district, stands as a monumental testament to this, its neo-Gothic brick facades rising from a forest of millions of oak piles driven deep into the marshy river delta. Each bridge, therefore, is more than a simple crossing. It is a link in a chain of history, a quiet symbol of a city that didn't just build beside the river Elbe, but engineered its own landscape, turning a formidable swamp into a global nexus of commerce and culture. Perched above a sea of ancient olive groves, Ostuni's moniker, La Città Bianca, feels almost too simple for the spectacle it presents. This uniform brilliance, however, is not born of a singular aesthetic vision, but of a desperate act of public health. During the devastating plague of the 17th century, the town's inhabitants began coating every surface with lime wash, a natural disinfectant that proved remarkably effective in containing the spread of disease. This pragmatic decision had an unintended yet magnificent consequence. The labyrinthine streets, originally designed over 1,000 years ago to confuse invaders, were transformed into brilliant white canyons that reflected the fierce Puglian sun, keeping the city cool and navigable. It serves as a profound reminder that what we now perceive as timeless beauty was once a shield, a testament to a community's resilience where a fight for survival inadvertently sculpted a legacy in stone and light that endures to this day. Lisbon's identity is famously written across its 7 hills, a dramatic topography that has shaped its destiny for centuries. But the city's modern soul was forged not by its ascent, but by its fall. On All Saints' Day in 1755, a catastrophic earthquake, followed by a tsunami and fires, reduced 2/3 of the capital to rubble. From this devastation rose a new vision, driven by the Marquis of Pombal. The medieval labyrinth was replaced by the Beix's rational grid, Europe's first major example of earthquake-resistant construction. Buildings were designed with a flexible wooden framework, the Gaiola Pombalina, an ingenious internal skeleton engineered to withstand seismic shocks. So as you navigate these streets, you're walking through a lesson in resilience. The very layout of the lower town and the enduring charm of the surviving hillside districts like Alfama are a testament not just to a city that was rebuilt, but to one that was profoundly reimagined in the face of near-total annihilation. Cuenca is not so much a city built upon a rock, as it is a city born from one, a fortress of stone and faith carved by time itself. Its most iconic structures, the famed Casas Colgadas, are a testament to this intimate and often perilous relationship with the landscape. While their exact origins are debated, it's widely held that these 15th century dwellings were not aristocratic follies, but a pragmatic, vertigo-inducing solution to a medieval problem, a lack of space. Hemmed in by the sheer gorges of the Júcar and Huecar rivers, the city's builders had nowhere to expand but outwards, over the abyss. For millions of years, the water patiently sculpted this karstic plateau, creating a naturally fortified spur that was irresistible to early settlers. The hanging houses are humanity's response, an architectural dialogue where ingenuity clings to the cliff face, not in an act of dominance, but in a precarious, centuries-long partnership with the immense forces that shaped it. To truly understand Copenhagen is to see it not just as a place, but as a deliberate design for living. In 1947, a visionary urban strategy known as the Finger Plan was adopted, shaping the city's growth for generations to come. It imagined the capital not as an ever-expanding circle, but as a hand with 5 fingers of development extending from the central palm. These corridors follow the S-train commuter lines, and crucially, are separated by vast green wedges of parkland, forest, and farmland, ensuring no resident is ever far from nature. This is why, within minutes, the hum of the city can be replaced by the quiet of a beechwood or the sound of the Öresund coast. It's a landscape born not of chance, but of profound foresight, a living blueprint for balancing the urban with the organic, a principle that remains at the very heart of the Danish capital's celebrated quality of life. To call Bruges a city frozen in time is to miss the true, more compelling story. Its remarkable preservation is not a deliberate act of conservation, but an accident of geography. For centuries, the city's lifeblood was the Zwin, a tidal inlet that gave its port direct access to the North Sea, making it one of Northern Europe's great commercial capitals. But by the late 15th century, this vital artery began to silt up, slowly and inexorably, strangling the trade that had built these magnificent guild halls and the iconic belfry. The economic decline that followed plunged Bruges into a slumber lasting nearly 500 years. Paradoxically, this long poverty was its architectural salvation. Without the wealth for grand redevelopment, the medieval heart of the city was left untouched, its canals becoming quiet mirrors rather than bustling highways. What we see today is not a city that defied time, but one that was simply forgotten by it, a beautiful and silent testament to how fortune's retreat can inadvertently preserve the past. To call Óbidos a wedding-present town is a romantic simplification, yet it holds the core of its unique identity. The tradition began in the year 1282, when King Dinis gifted the entire fortified village to his new bride, Queen Isabel of Aragon. This was no mere gesture. For the next 5 centuries, Óbidos became the personal property of Portugal's queens, the Casa das Rainhas. This royal patronage explains what we see today, not a grim military outpost, but a meticulously preserved jewel box. The Queen's revenue funded the restoration of its walls, the upkeep of its churches, and the cultivation of its charm. Every whitewashed wall draped in bougainvillea, every cobblestone lane is a direct legacy of this long line of royal women. It stands as a rare example of a place shaped not by the strategies of kings and generals, but by the tastes and tenures of queens. To walk through Berlin is to trace the contours of a city built on layers of reinvention, a historical palimpsest where the scar tissue of the 20th century is not hidden, but displayed as an indelible part of its identity. Look down, and you will find its most profound memorials are not towering monuments, but small brass plaques embedded in the cobblestones. These are the Stolperstein, or stumbling stones, marking the last chosen homes of the tens of thousands of victims of National Socialism. Each one, inscribed with a name, a date of birth, and a fate, is a deliberate interruption. A quiet, powerful insistence that history is not an abstract event, but a collection of individual lives. Placed directly in the path of daily life, they ensure that remembrance is not a pilgrimage to a single site, but a constant, unassuming presence, woven into the very fabric of the streets. It's a testament to a city that understands memory not as a monument to be visited, but as a conversation to be lived. To truly understand Mallorca, one must look beyond its sun-drenched coves and turn to its formidable spine, the Serra de Tramuntana. This is not merely a mountain range, it is a geological testament, a 90-kilometer-long shard of the Betic Cordillera thrust upwards from the seabed millions of years ago during the colossal collision of the African and Eurasian tectonic plates. This violent birth left a legacy of karstic limestone, a porous rock that swallows rainfall, forcing centuries of inhabitants to master the precious flow of water. It was the Moors who, with remarkable engineering, first sculpted these unforgiving slopes into the terraced landscapes we see today. Their intricate systems of channels and watermills, allowing ancient olive groves and citrus orchards to cling to the mountainsides. The result is a UNESCO World Heritage landscape, where every dry stone wall and quiet village is built from the very bones of the island, a silent, enduring dialogue between immense geological time and persistent human ingenuity. To the modern eye, Zaanse Schans appears as a tranquil portrait of Old Holland, but this idyllic landscape was once the engine room of a global superpower. In the 17th century, this was arguably the world's first industrial zone, where more than 600 windmills stood shoulder to shoulder along the River Zaan. These were not gentle giants for grinding grain. They were powerful, specialized machines. They drove immense saws that sliced Scandinavian timber for the shipyards of the Dutch East India Company, crushed pigments for the pallets of the old masters, and pressed oil from countless seeds. The air would have been thick with the scent of fresh-cut wood and the percussive, rhythmic thunder of 1,000 turning sails. What we now preserve as picturesque was, in fact, the raw, wind-driven heart of a nation's prosperity, a testament to an ingenuity that didn't just harness the wind, but industrialized it. The landscape of the Langhe unfolds not in sharp, dramatic peaks, but in a soft, continuous rhythm of rolling hills, a geometry that feels almost sculpted, too perfect to be accidental. And it is not. What we see today is the ghost of a primordial sea. Less than 10 million years ago, this entire region was submerged beneath the Padan Gulf, and these hills are the ancient seabed, pushed upwards by immense geological pressure and then carved by millennia of water. This specific marine soil, alternating layers of marl and sand, is the secret to the region's alchemy. It forces the roots of the Nebbiolo grape to dig deep, struggling for sustenance and, in that struggle, developing the profound complexity that defines the great wines of Barolo and Barbaresco. Every ridge and valley, therefore, is more than just a feature of the terrain. It is a chapter in a geological story. So when you look out across these vineyards, you are witnessing a direct conversation between the deep past and the present, a history of the earth that is not just observed, but tasted. The Danube here is more than a river. It's a profound geological fault where the rolling limestone hills of Buda meet the vast expanse of the Great Hungarian Plain. It is this very fracture in the Earth's crust that gives Budapest its most defining, yet often unseen, characteristic. Deep beneath the pavement, a labyrinth of over 120 thermal springs bubbles to the surface, carrying water that has been filtering through subterranean channels for centuries. The Romans understood this gift, building their first baths here nearly 2,000 years ago, and the Ottomans later perfected a culture of steam and contemplation that still permeates the city's soul. This constant, mineral-rich offering from the deep earth is not just a geological curiosity, it is the source of the city's unique rhythm, fueling the magnificent Art Nouveau bathhouses and offering a form of public life that is both social and deeply restorative. It's a reminder that the character of this great capital was shaped not only by empires and armies, but by the warm, healing waters flowing silently beneath its feet. Volterra rises from the Tuscan landscape not as a gentle invitation, but as a stark, powerful declaration. Long before Rome cast its long shadow, this was Velathri, a commanding capital and one of the 12 sovereign city-states of the Etruscan League. Its influence is still palpable in the colossal, weathered stones of the Porta Alarca, a gateway that has stood for over 22 centuries. These Cyclopean walls, hewn from the local sandstone, speak of a civilization that mastered its environment to project an aura of unbreachable strength. Yet, that very mastery is perpetually challenged by the land itself. Just beyond the city's western edge, the earth gives way to the bowels, vast, crumbling chasms that have been slowly, relentlessly consuming the plateau for centuries, swallowing Etruscan necropolises and ancient churches in their silent collapse. It is a stark and constant reminder that this city, a bastion of human resilience for nearly 3,000 years, is built upon a foundation as magnificent as it is precarious. Here, history is not just a collection of artifacts. It is a daily, living negotiation between stone and sky, endurance and erosion. To understand Girona is to understand the language of water and stone. The city owes its very character to the confluence of four distinct rivers, the Onyar, Galligants, Güell and Ter, a rare geographical feature that has dictated its layout and its lifeblood for millennia. This constant presence of water was not just a challenge, it was an invitation to innovate. We see the response in the iconic hanging houses, the cases penjadis, whose vibrant facades rise directly from the ancient city walls overhanging the Onyar, a vertical solution born of necessity. The very fabric of the old quarter is hewn from a local nummulitic limestone, a material dense with tiny marine fossils from some 40 million years ago, which lends the city its signature warm, golden hue. Here, nothing is accidental. Every bridge, every weathered stone, is part of a 2,000-year-old conversation between the land and its people, a testament to how a city can be shaped not in spite of its landscape, but in perfect, enduring harmony with it. To truly understand Salzburg, one must look beyond its polished Baroque facade and into the mountains that cradle it. The city's very name, Salzburg, the Salt Fortress, is the key, pointing to the source of its immense and enduring power. For more than 2,000 years, the salt mines of the nearby Dürnberg mountain yielded the region's white gold, a resource so vital for preservation and trade that it became the foundation of an ecclesiastical state. The sovereign prince-archbishops, who ruled for over 500 years, maintained a fiercely guarded monopoly on this trade. It was not commerce, it was the geological engine that financed a dynasty. Every opulent cathedral dome that punctuates the skyline, every sprawling public square, and the formidable Hohensalzburg fortress itself were built directly from the profits of this subterranean treasure. The city we see today is a spectacular and lasting testament to how a single mineral could be alchemized, not into gold, but into a magnificent stage of stone, faith, and art. To truly understand Ghent, one must look beyond its tranquil canals to the source of its formidable character. Here, at the confluence of the Scheldt and Leye rivers, a city was built not by royal decree, but on the back of the weaver's loom. For centuries, this was one of Europe's most powerful urban centers, a medieval metropolis whose wealth rivaled that of Paris, all derived from transforming English wool into the world's finest cloth. This fierce, mercantile independence is immortalized in its architecture. The magnificent guild halls lining the Grasley and Korenlei are not palaces, but the proud headquarters of commerce. Towering above them all is the 91-meter belfry, a secular watchtower and treasury that served as the ultimate symbol of civic liberty. Its great bell wasn't just for telling time, it was an alarm, a call to arms for a populace that repeatedly and fiercely defended its autonomy against the claims of counts and kings. Every stone here tells a story of a city that earned its own fortune and guarded it jealously. Nestled between the sheer cliffs of the Dachstein Massif and the placid surface of its lake, Hallstatt presents an image of almost impossible tranquility. Yet this idyllic facade belies a history of relentless industry, a story that begins not with emperors or kings, but with salt. For over 7,000 years, miners have journeyed into the heart of this mountain, following the rich veins of white gold that gave this very place its name and its purpose. This was the engine of a civilization, the Hallstatt culture, whose wealth and influence during the early Iron Age were built entirely on this single precious commodity. The town itself is a direct consequence of its challenging geography. With no room to expand, it grew vertically, its timbered houses clinging precariously to the rock. This enduring legacy, preserved by the very salt that created it, offers a rare, unbroken thread connecting our modern world to a past so distant it feels like a different Earth altogether. To drift through Amsterdam's canals is to navigate a masterpiece of human design. This iconic concentric ring of waterways, the Herengracht, Keizersgracht, and Prinsengracht, was not a happy accident of geography, but the centerpiece of a revolutionary urban expansion plan conceived in the early 17th century. Faced with a booming population, engineers undertook the monumental task of draining swampland and driving millions of timber piles deep into the marshy soil, creating a stable foundation for an entirely new district. This methodical grid explains the city's harmonious, almost theatrical appearance. Each gabled house, built narrow and tall to minimize tax based on canal frontage, stands as a testament to the period's commercial pragmatism. The very water that flows below is a constant reminder of the battle between land and sea, a battle won through sheer ingenuity. What we experience today is more than just a beautiful cityscape. It is a living blueprint of the Dutch Golden Age, a 400-year-old solution to the pressures of prosperity, where every reflection on the water is a glimpse into a meticulously planned past. To the casual observer, Frankfurt presents itself as a city of commerce, its identity forged in the glass and steel of Europe's most imposing skyline. This is the financial heart of the continent, a bustling metropolis of banking towers and international trade fairs, a city that speaks the universal language of capital. Yet this gleaming modernity, this so-called Manhattan that so defines its contemporary character, is built quite literally upon the ashes of a profound imperial legacy. For over 200 years, from 1562 until the empire's final dissolution, this was the Krönungsstadt, the coronation city of the Holy Roman Empire, where no fewer than 10 emperors received their sacred investiture within the Gothic vaults of St. Bartholomew's Cathedral. The very ground upon which the European Central Bank now stands once echoed with the pageantry of an ancient realm, with solemn processions of prince-electors and grand banquets held in the Row. To walk the streets of Guimarães is to walk through the opening chapter of a nation's story, feeling the weight of centuries settle with each step on the worn stone. Here, on a granite hill that presides with ancient authority over the surrounding landscape, crowned by a formidable 10th century castle, the very destiny of Portugal was forged. It was within the protective shadow of these 7 imposing granite towers that a young nobleman of unwavering resolve, Afonso Henriques, the country's future first king, fought the decisive Battle of São Mamede in the year 1128. This single, pivotal event was more than a military victory. It was a declaration of sovereignty that established not just a leader, but the very concept of an independent Portuguese identity, distinct and defiant. That profound legacy isn't confined to the fortress walls. It flows down into the city below, a living current that animates the labyrinth of cobbled lanes and sun-drenched squares. It whispers from the timber-framed medieval houses and ornate wrought-iron balconies, where a proud inscription on an ancient tower wall still proclaims, in a statement of beautiful simplicity, "Aqui nasceu Portugal," here Portugal was born. It's a powerful and humbling reminder that the grand sweep of history often begins in a single, determined place. Its enduring echo preserved not only in weathered stone and Gothic archways, but in the fierce pride and enduring character of its people, for whom this history is not a distant memory.